Hello. What is meditation? What's the purpose of meditation? Find out on the next Mystic Fix when we talk to a Buddhist Zen Master and a teacher of meditation. You don't want to miss it.
Mystic Fix, a program for the whole being with Julia Gordon-Bramer on NewsTalkSTL.
Welcome to Mystic Fix. I'm Julia Gordon-Bramer. This week's episode corresponds with the Hermit card in the tarot. The Hermit represents meditation, wisdom, and solitude. And who better to introduce these subjects than a Zen master and teacher of meditation? I want to first introduce Daigaku Rumme from the Buddhist Council and the Confluence Zen Center here in St. Louis. Welcome.
Thank you, Julia.
So Daigaku, first off, maybe you could describe what Zen is, because I think people hear Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. They're not the same thing exactly, right?
I would think they are the same. Zen is one school of Mahayana Buddhism.
Okay.
It is the school of Mahayana Buddhism that emphasizes the importance of meditation as part of the practice.
Okay, but not all Buddhism does that then.
Well, it's a bit of a longer story, but in the Theravadan tradition, which we find in Southeast Asia, meditation is part of the life of the monks, the clergy.
Okay.
But in the Mahayana stream of Buddhism, Zen is really the school of Buddhism that concentrates on meditation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Daigaku, you were in a Japanese monastery studying Zen for what, 27 years?
Something like that. Yeah, I lost track after a while. Long time.
Tell us what that was like.
Well, Julia, I went in as a young person. I never expected to live that long. I originally thought 6 months or a year, but it turned out that it was more efficient, shall I say, to become a monk, because the life of a monk was designed to help people concentrate on what we think of as meditation or the life of Zen. And so I did that. And year after year, that I simply couldn't find a better place or imagine a better place. I had a world-class teacher. It was a traditional monastic setting where there were anywhere from 20 to 25 people. We supported ourselves growing our own vegetables and also going out begging. And so it was just hard to find or even imagine a better place to train in Zen practice.
Wow. So, I mean, I just read an old biography of St. Francis, and that was part of his thing, going out begging. So that's a part of the Japanese monks' routine.
It is. It's disappearing because there are just not as many monks who are doing that anymore. But that goes all the way back to the time of the Buddha.
Oh, interesting.
The Buddha also, as well, would go out every morning to collect his food, and that tradition was passed both in the Theravadan tradition and the Mahayana tradition into China, Korea, and Japan. And yes, that was. So we did not do that every day, but that was part of our practice.
So it seems to me then that you would have a real detachment from material goods and worldly possessions, right?
That was one of the advantages of being a monk. We didn't have to worry about money or supporting ourselves. It's a very simple life. We're not married. We don't have to worry about money. It's designed to help you focus. And what we're focusing on is what we're doing in the moment. It's as simple as that.
Wow. Okay, so you became a high priest, as I understand, right?
I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'd rather just think of myself now as a Zen priest.
Okay.
Who happens to be leading
a
small meditation group here in St. Louis. I rather focus or emphasize the horizontal connections we have rather than the vertical.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And so horizontally, you went east across the east across the Pacific to L.A., and you were there a number of years.
Well, first I was in San Francisco. I was there for 7 years. I was working for the parent organization. We were part of the Soto Zen sect.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to L.A. I was a priest there at a temple called Zen Shuji, a Japanese-American temple.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've been here in St. Louis almost 8 years.
Okay.
Actually, 8 years, almost exactly.
And you are both a member of the, I want to get this right. Well, I know you lead at the Confluence Zen Center, and the Buddhist Council you're a member of, correct?
Our group is part of the Buddhist Council, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell me about the Buddhist scene here in St. Louis. Is there one? and maybe across the United States.
Well, frankly, I think Buddhism is one of the great religions that is slowly and steadily spreading across this country. Here in St. Louis, we have about 20 Buddhist groups of varying different kinds of Buddhism. And there is a council called the Buddhist Council, and we have 3 or 4 annual events that we support and produce.
Uh-huh. And I saw some of those online. I saw you had one, it was a previous year, a whole day of sitting. It was like a 8 or 12-hour day of
Oh, we do that regularly at the
Really?
Confluence Zen Center, but I don't know if there are other places that do that.
Yeah, that
but-
seems very challenging to somebody like me who has to move a lot, you know.
It surely gets used. It takes a while to get used to it. Let's say
Uh-huh.
that. Many Americans are not used to sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
We typically sit on a round cushion on the floor, but we also have chairs for those who are challenged by that. And it takes a while for the body to get used to it. But once you're used to it, it's just a very comfortable thing to do.
Yeah, okay. You know, I notice today in this sort of new agey spirituality, we have a term, mindfulness. I see it all the time. I see it on license plates and bumper stickers. And I wonder if people actually know what mindfulness is. I thought maybe you could address that.
That's an interesting question. I often say that Zen is mindfulness, but mindfulness as a movement is not Zen.
Oh,
Um,
please explain.
well, Zen is a matter of being mindful of what you're doing,
Mhm.
moment by moment, activity by activity. The whole idea of Zen is just to be one with whatever activity, whatever task you have in that moment. So I think of that as mindfulness, rather than thinking about the past or the future, to really just concentrate on what you're doing, to do it for the sake of the task. A mindfulness as a movement is a form of Buddhism that is more closely associated, I would say, with Theravadan Buddhism. And the reason I say that mindfulness in that sense is not Zen is because the whole idea of Zen is to forget being mindful. In other words, as long as there's someone who's being mindful, there's still a separation there. And the whole idea of Zen is to eliminate that separation between that idea of me and that task or activity that you're doing.
Okay. So I remember reading, I believe it was Peace in Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh, and he talked about washing the dishes and just being so fully in the motion and the feeling of the water and the suds and the goal of cleanliness. And, you know, and he of course said it much more beautifully than I just did. But that you would call Zen.
That I would call Zen. I mean, that is all an expression through words. Finally, words also are not necessary. So we often say, just do it. But even that idea of just is still an idea. So the idea there is to, by just doing things, to also get rid of those concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as there's an idea that you have to do something, there's still a separation.
Okay. So you're saying more become it.
That's right.
Right?
And,
Okay.
and the fact is we already are that.
Which is kind of what the alchemist pursues, if you read on alchemy at all.
I think this is really the foundation of religion. You know, the idea of eliminating that separation.
Mm-hmm.
The teaching of Buddhism is that there really is no separation.
Yeah.
We create the separation.
Uh-huh.
So it's a matter of forgetting the ego. Finally.
Right.
Final.
Even some tenets of Christianity and something I practice, A Course in Miracles, believes that the separation is all ego, and it isn't really there, and we have to get back to the truth and the oneness. And
I think there are a lot of similarities in that.
yes,
regard.
yeah. So, in keeping mindful, truly mindful, not necessarily the mindfulness movement, we couldn't multitask, which Americans are famous for. I mean, we're always doing something and scrolling on our phones and what have you.
I agree with you. I think multitasking really isn't possible. That's a delusion.
Ah,
We can only do one thing at a time. And so Zen is very much the idea of just concentrate on one thing at a time.
yeah, certainly one thing well. Yeah.
To do it completely. You know,
Uh-huh.
just if you are washing the dishes, which you mentioned earlier, just do that.
Yeah. I think we've all had the feeling of talking to somebody and they're distracted and they're somewhere
Thinking
else
about something else.
or glancing at their phone or yeah. It's not a good feeling, and it isn't a connected feeling.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think that's something we can all aspire to do, but it's more difficult to do than actually we think it is sometimes.
Yeah. So, Daigaku, tell us a little bit. I took a look at the Confluence Zen Center website, and they have really quite a lot on there. Some of your recorded teachings are online, as well as things that we can read. You keep up on Japanese festivals. You have Zen study groups. You have Intro to Zen classes. Is there anything you would want to point out in either that or the Buddhist Council?
The Buddhist Council has an event coming up in June. I think it'll be June 4th this year. It will be held at MABA, Mid-America Buddhist Association, which is in Augusta,
Mm-hmm.
Missouri. That'll be on a Sunday. That'll be a celebration of the Buddha's birth,
Mm-hmm.
enlightenment, and death, all wrapped up in one day. I think everybody is welcome to attend that. In our case, we have what we call Beginner's Night
Mm-hmm.
at the Confluence Zen Center.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is interested in learning how to do meditation, I can give them a quick instruction on Beginner's Night. That's usually the first Monday evening of the month from 6:30. And then we sit from 7 to 7:40, and everybody is welcome.
Oh, that's great. And when you say sit, you mean on a cushion in silence, right? Just maybe doing some breathing exercises?
That's right. I mean,
Uh-huh.
traditionally we sit on a round cushion, which is on top of a rectangular cushion. There, we're sitting on the floor. If people are challenged by that, they can sit in a chair. We have chairs.
And this is the Zazen practice.
This is the practice
Wait.
of Zazen. Zazen literally means sitting Zen. So that's the word we use for meditation.
Mm-hmm.
In a larger context, we aspire to practice that in whatever we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake of sitting and doing meditation, yes, we do sit on a cushion. We're facing the wall. On Beginner's Night, we divide that 40 minutes into 20 minutes of sitting, 5 minutes of a walking meditation, and then 15 more minutes of sitting, just to help people get used to that idea of sitting for a longer time.
Great. Yeah, my next guest, Shai Tubali, wrote the Llewellyn's Book of Meditations. And gosh, I think that he's got like 35 different kinds of meditations from around the world, different ways to do it. And I didn't know there were so many. So Zen pretty much practices just the sitting and walking, or are there many within the Zen practice?
There are different ways of sitting when you're actually sitting. One of my teacher's favorite ways of instructing people was just warm the cushion.
Mm.
And many people
Kind of just be there, right?
just be there. Just be there. This is a hint, I think, to let go of your ideas that you're bringing to meditation. Everybody brings ideas of what they should do or what they shouldn't do. Many people think they shouldn't be thinking, et cetera, and just be there.
Mm.
Easier said than done, but it's as an experiment, it's interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So, Daigaku, when we were chatting on the phone, You said you might want to share a favorite story or a poem.
There's one poem that I'm very fond of, Julia. It's a Japanese poem. In Japanese, it has 5 lines, but in English translation, it has 4 lines. And it goes like this. This very moment. Just think of only this. The past cannot return. The future cannot be known. Human beings can only think of either the past or the future. It is impossible for us to think of the moment now, to perceive the moment now, shall I say. Not even the Buddha can do that. And that may sound contradictory. After all, we're talking together, you're understanding what I'm saying. But the idea there is that there's always a nanosecond separation between something we perceive, like a sound, and our actual perception of it. By the time we realize, oh, he's knocking on this counter, that sound is already gone.
Yeah.
So we can think of the past, and we're often thinking about something that's happened in the past. And a lot of times we're a little bit uncomfortable or unhappy with the way something turned out. Right. Somebody said something to us, or somebody didn't say something to us, or on and on we can become obsessed about something that happened yesterday or last week and so on. Likewise, the future, we can think about the future, we can plan for the future, but the future, as this poem says, is unknowable. A lot of times things don't turn out the way we expect they will or hope they will.
Yeah. Or maybe they turn out better than we ever imagined.
Absolutely. Either way, that's very much true.
The present moment, though, is the only place of peace then.
Regardless of what we think about the past or the future, that's happening now. That's the irony. Yeah. Whatever we think about the past, which we cannot change or hold on to, or the future, which we cannot know, we can predict, but we can't know, it's all happening now. Mm-hmm. That's the contradiction. So Zen is really about letting go of what we think about the past or might happen in the future and really concentrating, focusing on what we're doing in the moment.
Great. Well, Daigaku, it has been a pleasure. How can people reach you?
I think, first of all, to go to our website, that would be confluencezen.org. And you can reach us by phone or by email. Should be listed on that website.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Does this modern world feel like a bit too much sometimes? Next up, we're going to meet Shai Tubale, author of more than 25 books. His latest, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, is our book giveaway this week on mysticfix.com. Shai is a teacher of transcendent states of consciousness, a researcher at the University of Leeds, and a perfect example of the Hermit card and the wisdom he embodies. You're listening to News Talk STL, 101.9 and 94.1.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Kama Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Kama Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in 2023 are at the Chosen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. For more, visit Kama Flight on Instagram at KAMAFLIGHT.